lesson 5-4 is divide rational numbers. Okay, so we started off with our IXL practice with dividing fractions, and now we're taking our notes. So, dividing rational numbers. Now, you can write this. You don't have to write this entire chart, folks. You just need to write what's here on the left. Okay? So, the steps for dividing fractions is to rewrite the division as multiplication by the reciprocal. Then we multiply, and then we identify the quotient. So, when we rewrite the division as multiplication, what is that rule that helps us remember that? So, here, when we're dividing fractions, we're going to keep, change, flip. That means that we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Is that clear? Now, what do I always tell you to do before you actually multiply? There's a step missing in here. Simplify. Very good. Simplify before we multiply. Very good. Make sure you write that down. And then you write down your answer. Remember that when you multiply straight across. So example 1, we're going to divide rational numbers. So again, when dividing fractions, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So here is where we're going to keep, change, flip. Okay? So the first fraction is going to stay the same, -6/7. The division becomes multiplication, good. And so you can see what I'm flipping around here. This is 12 over 1. Just put that over 1. What's my reciprocal of 12? 1 over 12. So that's 1/12. And now we're going to simplify before we multiply. And you can see we can simplify the 6 and the 12, right? So 6 divided by 6 is 1. And 12 divided by 6 is 2. And now we multiply straight across. So 1 times 1 is 1. And 7 times 2 is 14. Now you have to think about the sign. Here, the sign, the first fraction is negative. The second fraction is positive. So a negative times a positive is a negative. So my answer is going to be -1/14. So for letter B, again, we're going to keep, change, flip. Okay? This is a negative times a divided by a negative, right? It's a negative divided by a negative. Very good. So here, the first fraction stays the same. So that's going to be a -5/8. The division becomes multiplication, and the -3/4 becomes -4/3. Very good. So now we can simplify before we multiply. Is there anything I can simplify? The 4 and the 8, right. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. Very good. And now we're going to multiply straight across. So 5 times 1 is 5, and 2 times 3 is 6. And again, negative times a negative is a positive. So my final answer there is 5/6. When dividing rational numbers written in different forms, we want to write the factors in the same form. So again, if you're dividing fractions and decimals, you want to either make them all fractions or make them all decimals. Now, the reason why you don't have to write this down, you guys, is that it's exactly the same thing you wrote down for adding and subtracting, okay? So if the fractions or mixed numbers are decimals that terminate, you can use decimals or fractions to divide. Either way is fine. Okay? If the fractions are mixed numbers, or if the fraction or mixed numbers are non-terminating decimals, then we need to absolutely use fractions to divide. Okay? So we want to divide rational numbers here. Now here we have mixed numbers. Now, what was the first step? No, I can't keep change flip here. I have mixed numbers. What do I have to do with those mixed numbers? Very good. We want to change these mixed numbers to improper fractions, just like we did with adding and subtracting. So we want to change the mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay? And if you want to write that down on the side, change mixed to improper. Okay? So now we've got, let's see, this is a negative. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. So that's 4/3. Divided by, still division, 2 times 15 is 30 plus 2 is, so this is 32/15. And now, this is where we're going to keep, change, flip. Okay? So now we need to rewrite. So, the negative 4/3 stays the same. The division becomes multiplication. And the 32/15 becomes 15 over 32. Now, what's the next thing we want to do? No. Simplify. Simplify before multiply. Does everybody see how I'm writing my notes on the side? You should do that too. So, we can simplify the 3 and the 15, right? 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. And now I can simplify the 4 and the 32. So, let's see. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 32 divided by 4 is 8. And now we can multiply straight across. Okay? So, negative times a positive is a negative. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 8 is 8. And there's my final answer. Now again, the first step is to change the mixed numbers to improper fractions, okay? So, we've got, let's see, the negative 5, if you want, you can put this over 1. So let's write negative 5 over 1 divided by, and this one over here is going to be negative, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Oh, look, I got 4/3 again. 4/3. Okay? So first step, change mixed to improper. Now we're going to keep, change, flip. Okay? So we've got a negative 5 over 1. The division becomes multiplication. And the negative 4/3 becomes, no, not positive, just the reciprocal. Doesn't become the opposite. So it's going to be negative 3 over 4. Good catch. Okay, now, can I simplify before I multiply? No, there's nothing here you can simplify. Okay? Now, a negative times a negative is a positive. So, 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 4 is 4. And now what do I have to do here? I got to simplify by changing back to a mixed number. So how many times is 4 going to 15? 3 times, with how many left over? 3 left over, so this is going to be 3 and 3/4. All right, so example 3 is working with a word problem, okay? We're still dividing rational numbers. It says a 26.2-mile marathon has a water stop every 2 and 41/45 miles. The last water stop is at the finish line. How many water stops are there in the race? Okay? So on this one, if you want a visual, you see you have a race. You have a race. Okay? Finishes here. And it has a water stop, a water stop, this is not really exact. A water stop, and a water stop, and a water stop. And of course, they said there's another one at, where? At the finish line. So that means another water stop, last water stop, at the finish line. That means there's another water stop right here. How do I decide how many water stops there are in this group? So here we want to take the entire marathon, and then we want to split it up into equidistant pieces, and then there's one more at the end, okay? So we're going to take 26.2, and we're going to divide that by 2 and 41/45. Do we want to change these to all fractions or all decimals? Let's just check, okay? Remember, it said if this is a non-terminating fraction, or if I change this to a fraction to a decimal, if it's a non-terminating decimal, then I have to use fractions, right? Okay, so we want to divide 41 divided by 45. So that is a non-terminating decimal. Is everybody clear with that? So that means we have to use fractions to solve this problem. Let's change the 26.2 to a fraction. Well, you can read, if you just read it correctly, there's your fraction. This says 26 and 2/10. Okay? So this is 26 and 2/10. And we're dividing that by 2 and 41/45. The next step is to change the mixed numbers to improper fractions. Very good. So, here we have 26 times 10. That's an easy one, right? 260 plus 2. Right. So this is going to be 262 over 10. Divided by, now this one, we have 2 times 45 is 90. 90 plus 41 is 131, right? Is everybody clear? So this is going to be 131 over 45. So now we're going to keep, change, flip. Okay? And I'm gonna continue this up here because I'm running out of space. So the first fraction stays the same. That's 262 over 10. The division becomes multiplication, and the 131 over 45 becomes 45 over 131. Oh, very nice, very nice. Does everybody see what I can simplify? Look, 131 and 162, right? Does everybody see it? So 131 divided by 131 is 1. And 262 divided by 131 is 2. Oh, it makes it so much easier. Now, can I simplify 10 and 45? Yes, I can. I can divide by 5, right? So 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 45 divided by 5 is 9. Oh, so much easier. So now we multiply straight across. Oh, look at this. Does everybody see what's happening here? I have a 2 and a 2 over here. Does everybody see that? So I can simplify that again. We can say, okay, here's another one. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. Does everybody see how I simplified that? Now, we can multiply straight across. So 1 times 9 is 9, and 1 times 1 is 1. So my answer here is 9. This is 9 water stops, right? Water stops. Now, we have to keep in mind that it says there is another water stop at the finish line. So what do I have to do to this? No, I just have to add one more water stop. So this is going to be a total of 10 water stops or water stations. So Jack's drive to work is 6 and 3/8 miles, and he passes through a traffic light every 1.275 miles. How many traffic lights does Jack pass through on the way to work? Okay, so just like that marathon, what are we starting with? What are we starting with? 6 and 3/8. And what are we going to divide by? Very good. So we have 6 and 3/8 divided by 1.275. Okay? Now, we want to check to see if this is a repeating decimal, right? Because remember, you want to change to all decimals or all fractions. Is everybody with me? Okay? So, let's go back to our calculator. And we're going to divide 3 divided by 8. Oh, look at that. It's a terminating decimal. So I can use decimals to divide this. Is everybody with me? All right. So we've got 6 and, what was it? 375. 6.375 divided by 1.275. Is that clear? So now you can use your calculator, okay? So we're going to divide, and clear this out, 6.375. Oh, thank you. 6.375 divided by 1.275. And that's going to give us 5. So, this is 5 traffic lights. Make sure you write your label.